I'm making this video to show how I added geared steering to my Mamod Steamroller. For any of you who's interested in it, what parts I used and how I went about it. All the parts you see here are from mechanospares.com. A lot of them are made by them. In fact, I think all of them, apart from the grub screws, are remanufactured parts by them. Starting at the handle, which is parts number 19G crank handle, 3.5 inches long, with stainless steel shaft and a long brass handle, which came off of this. The holes in the steering wheel are the same size as the mounting for this wheel, so I managed to feed the shaft through to the correct position, mark the back, and then I cut it to length, allowing for play in the handle to allow it to spin round, and then I JB welded it in. I did try soldering it in, but I haven't got very good soldering gear, so in the end I JB welded it. So that's the handle. The wheel, as I mentioned, is 518 bush wheel, 1 inch in brass, which is, I think, a very good scale for this size model. It's got, turn it round, these are the holes, which are the same size as the mounting hole there, so that works out perfect for the handle. That is just grub screwed onto the shaft, which is an 8-inch stainless steel mechano shaft by mechanospares.com again. And that feeds through a double angle strip 236D, which is a narrower version of the double angle strip. It's 1 hole high, 3 wide, and I have, if you can see that, use self-tapping screws, stainless steel ones, to fix that to the firebox. I pre-drilled the holes after marking it by holding the shaft again and the gear against the worm gear on a flat surface to mark where I needed to drill, and then I fixed that. And then, if you could see, there's plenty of room from the crank to the shaft, so that's no problem. But also, you need to fit 2 of these collets, or else it won't turn. It will just try and pull itself backwards and forwards, the shaft. Then that comes through to a normal mechano L bracket. I don't have the part number, but it's just a standard mechano bracket, which I have drilled and tapped for M4 stainless stud, which is basically a bolt with the head cut off that's mounted into the chimney, and then that supports the shaft and also puts pressure between the gears. Not huge amounts of pressure, but just closes up the gap between the worm gear and the steering gear. This worm gear is a 32A left hand worm gear, which gives it the correct, steers the correct way. It's made by mechanospares.com, and it is quite expensive at £6.32p. You can get a normal mechano worm gear for a couple quid, but if you turn this handle, it will turn the opposite way. But I mean, if you wanted to do it a lot cheaper and not be annoyed by this turning the wrong way, then that's the way to go. That is meshing against a 31 spur spur gear with 38 teeth and a 1/4 inch face. This is the most expensive part because I wanted a thicker faced gear to make it look a bit fancier, I suppose, but it was £13.25p. It looks fantastic. The brass they use is brilliant, but you can do it a lot cheaper than that by getting either a standard mechano gear or I think they do different thickness gears and mechano spares. And I first of all needed to drill out the shaft slightly so it will fit the standard Mamod pivot, and once I'd done that I had to lean the wheels back so I can slip this gear past the chimney and then grub screw it on, and then it will fit just about clear, but because the chimney tapers out you won't be able to drop it straight down on. You have to pass the shaft up through this gear. But once you've done that, if you put this in neutral and use permanent marker, mark neutral position, turn it to the full position just before it touches this side, you mark it again on the gear, and then you turn it around the other way to just before it touches, mark the gear again, and then that will give you your full locks and your neutral, and then you can cut off the rest of the gear like I've done here, which is quite easy. You just put it in a little vise just to hold it still with a Dremel wheel. Just cut off a bit at a time, and then I sanded it and polished it with some brasso, and it looks scale. It's very similar to the Olison Stevens type gearing, or I forgot what it's called now. There's another one that had geared steering. The only thing I've got to do now is make a keyway washer here to keep this pivot in the middle, because on an even ground, if you see that, it'll disengage from the worm gear. So I need to make a keyway washer to stop the pivot from moving in the slot, which I'll probably do the weekend. But once it's oiled and you've got this positioned correctly, which like I said is just a stainless steel bolt with the head cut off, and I drilled and tapped the chimney, JB welded it in just to be sure. I sanded down a nut to fit on the inside to lock it, and then on the outside the washer on another nut, and that seems to be fine. So there will be some adjustment. If I got a thinner nut, I could lock it against the bracket instead of the chimney, and then I'll have a lot more adjustability, which I might have to look at some point, but it's on there. Well, and on level ground it turns really well now I've oiled it. Bit of a squeak, but I'm only using one hand, I'm not holding the model down. It's nice and smooth. The reason I did this is because I like to run my models without a steering rod, and I'd had to do the locking nut down incredibly tight to keep it going round in a straight circle, or else it just wander off of my bit of board that I run my Mamods on. So I thought, for a bit of detail as well, I thought I'd make some geared steering for it. I'm very pleased with it, but like I said, I've got to make a keyway washer to stop it from this pivot from moving. The list of the parts you see on here, these are on from mechanospares.com. Like I said, the only expensive part is the spur gear, but I went for the full bells and whistles 1/4 inch face one. but otherwise you can do it quite cheaply. The smaller bracket isn't listed on here because I bought this before, and this is a lock nut I bought before, but yeah, I'm pleased with it. And so hopefully this video helped explain how I did it. It's quite easy. I mean, I'm not overly mechanically minded, I'm not an engineer, just got into this hobby, and I'm pleased with it. So hopefully you can see what I've done and have a go at yourself doing it.